The first light of morning spread across the African savanna, painting the dry grass with a soft golden glow. A honey badger crawled out from a narrow burrow hidden beneath tangled roots. The cool air carried the scent of dust, wild herbs, and distant animals, beginning another busy day. He stretched his short but powerful legs, sniffed the breeze, and started searching for breakfast. Hunger pushed him forward with determination. Although honey badgers are famous for being fearless, courage alone does not guarantee a meal. Every hunt depends on timing, luck, and patience. This badger knew the land well. He recognized old game trails, termite mounds, and patches of loose soil where small creatures often hid. Even so, nature had a way of surprising every hunter. His first opportunity came sooner than expected. A small ground squirrel darted between clumps of dry grass, stopping now and then to collect seeds. The honey badger lowered his body close to the ground and moved carefully, placing each paw with remarkable silence. For several moments everything seemed perfect. Then a gust of wind shifted. The squirrel instantly caught his scent, gave a sharp warning call, and disappeared into a deep underground tunnel before the badger could pounce. The failed attempt cost precious energy. Still, he refused to give up. He wandered farther across the open plain until he noticed fresh scratch marks near an old termite mound. Lizards often searched there for insects during the morning. The honey badger waited beside a rock, barely moving. Minutes passed before a colorful agama lizard emerged. He lunged with surprising speed, but the reptile slipped through a narrow crack between stones that was far too small for the badger to reach. Now the sun climbed higher, and the cool morning quickly turned into intense heat. Each step became heavier as thirst and hunger slowly drained his strength. Birds circled overhead, while zebras and antelope grazed peacefully in the distance, paying little attention to the determined hunter below. With 2 hunts already lost, the honey badger paused beneath the shade of a thorny acacia tree. He took a deep breath, lifted his nose once more, and searched the wind for any sign that another opportunity might still be waiting somewhere across the vast savanna after resting for a short while. The honey badger pushed himself back onto his feet. His stomach was empty, and every failed hunt made him more determined to find something to eat. As he wandered across the savanna, a sweet scent drifted through the warm afternoon air. He stopped, lifted his nose, and followed the smell until he spotted a large wild beehive hanging from the branch of an old tree. Honey was worth the risk. Honey badgers are well known for raiding beehives, and their thick skin offers some protection against bee stings. Still, it is never an easy meal. The badger slowly climbed the rough trunk, digging his sharp claws into the bark for a firm grip. Angry bees immediately poured out of the hive, buzzing around his face and shoulders. He ignored them and kept climbing, focused on the reward just above him. Just as he reached toward the hive, the dry branch beneath his weight cracked with a sharp snap. He crashed to the ground in a cloud of dust and dry leaves. The hive remained safely above, but the disturbed bees rushed after him in a furious swarm. He sprinted through the grass, shaking his head and weaving between bushes until the buzzing slowly faded behind him. Although he escaped, he had spent a great deal of energy and still had nothing to eat. Tired but unwilling to quit, he continued searching. Near a sun-warmed rock, he noticed a large lizard lying perfectly still. This time he moved with extra care. Every step was slow and silent. He waited until he was close enough to strike. In an instant, he lunged. At that exact moment, a shadow swept across the ground. A large eagle folded its wings, dropped from the sky, and snatched the lizard with its talons before the honey badger could reach it. Within seconds, both bird and prey were disappearing into the distance. The badger stood motionless, watching the sky. Another chance had slipped away. By late afternoon, exhaustion weighed heavily on him. His legs felt tired, his mouth was dry, and the day seemed determined to test his patience. Yet turning back without food was not an option. Somewhere across the savanna, he believed another opportunity had to exist. The afternoon slowly gave way to evening, and the harsh heat of the day began to fade. Long shadows stretched across the savanna as a gentle breeze carried new scents through the dry grass. The honey badger walked more slowly now. Hours of searching had left him exhausted, and his empty stomach made every step feel heavier than the last. For the first time all day, he wondered if he would have to return to his burrow without finding a single meal. Then he stopped. A faint smell drifted through the air. It was fresh, earthy, and unmistakable. Somewhere nearby, an animal had recently been feeding. The honey badger lifted his nose, testing the breeze again. This time he was careful not to rush. Earlier that day, every impatient decision had ended in failure. He had learned that moving too quickly often meant losing the opportunity before it truly began. Keeping low to the ground, he quietly followed the scent through patches of tall grass and around scattered thorn bushes. After several minutes, he reached the edge of a dry riverbed where the soil was soft with fresh tracks. Small hoofprints crossed the sandy ground, leading toward a cluster of shrubs. The tracks were recent. The honey badger moved closer, placing each paw carefully to avoid making noise. Through a gap in the bushes, he finally saw the source of the scent. A young warthog was rooting through the loose soil with its snout, searching for roots and insects. It seemed relaxed, completely unaware that a predator was watching from only a short distance away. The badger remained perfectly still. The breeze continued blowing toward him, carrying the warthog's scent while hiding his own. It was the perfect advantage, but only if he stayed patient. Charging too early would almost certainly end in another failure. Several long minutes passed. The warthog wandered slowly across the riverbed, stopping every few steps to dig into the ground. Little by little, it moved closer to the bushes where the honey badger waited without making a sound. His muscles tightened, and his breathing slowed. This was the closest he had come to success all day. He fixed his eyes on the unsuspecting animal, knowing that when the moment finally arrived, he would have only one chance to make it count. The young warthog took a few more slow steps, completely unaware that the honey badger was hidden just beyond the bushes. The evening breeze continued to blow in the badger's favor, carrying the warthog's scent while masking his own. He remained motionless, resisting the urge to rush. His muscles were tense, and his eyes followed every movement of his unsuspecting target. When the warthog lowered its head to dig into the soft ground again, the moment finally arrived. The honey badger burst from his hiding place with surprising speed. The startled warthog let out a sharp squeal and spun around, kicking up dust as it tried to escape. It darted toward the open plain, but the badger stayed close behind. Though much smaller, he was powerful and incredibly determined. He seized the warthog by the hind leg, refusing to let go despite the animal's frantic attempts to break free. The struggle lasted several exhausting moments. The warthog twisted, kicked, and dragged the badger across the dusty ground. More than once it almost escaped, but the honey badger held on with remarkable persistence. Slowly, the warthog's strength began to fade. At last, the chase came to an end, and the badger had finally earned the meal he had spent the entire day searching for. For a few moments, he simply stood there, breathing heavily as the cool evening air settled over the savanna. The frustration of the morning and afternoon slowly disappeared. Every failed attempt, every missed opportunity, and every setback had led to this single successful hunt. As darkness crept across the landscape, the honey badger began to feed. Nearby, birds called from distant trees, and the sounds of the African night slowly replaced the silence of sunset. He no longer felt defeated or unlucky. Instead, he had gained something far more valuable than a meal. That difficult day had reminded him that survival was not only about courage or strength. Even the toughest hunter can fail again and again. Success often belongs to the one who stays patient, learns from mistakes, and refuses to quit. With a full stomach at last, the honey badger disappeared into the growing darkness, ready to face whatever challenges the next sunrise would bring.